hit Nichols. This is the new FDA approvals podcast for the week of September 25th through September 29th. I can't even believe we're in October already. Amazing. All right, so first up this week, the FDA has approved Ryzumvi. That's Phentolamine ophthalmic solution, 0.75% for the treatment of pharmacologically-induced mydriasis. That's also known as the dilated pupils you get after an eye exam. Mydriasis results from adrenergic agonists such as phenylephrine or parasympathetic agents such as tropicamide. The manufacturers Viatris and Ocuphire Pharma note in a written release that an estimated 100 million comprehensive eye exams take place each year and involve pharmacologically induced mydriasis or dilation of the pupils. The effect can last up to 24 hours and include sensitivity to light and blurred vision. Ryzumvi was evaluated in the comprehensive MIRA, M-I-R-A, clinical trial program involving more than 600 subjects. Ryzumvi is a relatively non-selective alpha-1 and alpha-2 adrenergic agonist that reversibly binds to receptors on the iris dilator muscle, thereby reducing pupil diameter. The approval of Ryzumvi arrives following a new drug application filing in December and acceptance of the NDA by the FDA this February. Ryzumvi, formerly called Nyxol, Nyxol, is expected to be available in the US in the first half of 2024 and is currently the only commercially available treatment option indicated for the reversal of dilated eyes. Also this week, the FDA has approved Exxua, that's extended-release Gepirone hydrochloride tablets for the treatment of MDD in adults. According to the manufacturer, Fabre-Kramer, while the mechanism of the antidepressant effect is not completely understood, Exxua is the first and only approved antidepressant for the treatment of MDD in adults that works through the selective agonism of 5-HT1A receptors, as opposed to the serotonin reuptake inhibitors. The company expects to launch Exxua in early 2024. Data in more than 5,000 patients showed that the most common adverse events were dizziness and nausea, mostly mild and transient. Sexual side effects and weight gain, often associated with antidepressants, were not more common among Exxua-treated patients than among placebo comparators. Exxua has encountered regulatory setbacks along the way to this approval. However, the company filed the first NDA for Exxua in September 1999, and it was subsequently rejected in 2002. Then in 2015, an advisory committee meeting voted 9-4 against an approval due to lack of evidence to support the drug's efficacy, although there was an 11-2 vote supporting safety at that time. The current prescribing information includes a boxed warning for increased risk of suicidal thinking and behavior in pediatric and young adult patients taking antidepressants, although, again, Exxua is indicated only for adults with MDD. The FDA has approved Likmez, Likmez, a liquid oral formulation of Metronidazole, that's ATI-1501, an antibiotic used to treat a wide variety of infections. Currently, Likmez is the only liquid oral suspension of Metronidazole approved in the US. Likmez, manufactured by the Canadian company Pupil, has been licensed to Septalis for commercialization in the US and elsewhere. According to a press release from Pupil, the current tablet form of metronidazole is the only other approved oral form on the US market, but its bitter taste and lack of appropriate dosage forms for patients with difficulty swallowing often presents treatment compliance challenges. There are over 10 million metronidazole prescriptions written each year in the US to help treat parasitic and anaerobic bacterial infections. The approval will secure patent coverage for the antibiotic through 2039. Also this week, the FDA granted de novo marketing authorization for the Invitae Common Hereditary Cancers Panel, an in vitro diagnostic test that can help detect hundreds of genetic variants associated with an elevated risk of developing certain cancers. The test can also help identify potentially cancer-associated hereditary variants in individuals with already diagnosed cancer. This test is the first of its kind to be granted FDA marketing authorization. It evaluates DNA extracted from a blood sample to identify variants in 47 genes known to be associated with an elevated risk of developing certain types of cancer, including BRCA1 and 2 involved in breast cancer and other cancers. The specimen is collected at the point of care, such as doctors' offices, and then sent to a lab for analysis. To validate the test, the manufacturer Invitae tested over 9,000 clinical samples and showed a greater than or equal to 99% accuracy for all tested variant types. And now a word from the supporter of this episode, Nascent Medical. Attention all businesses in need of exceptional medical writing support. We're Nascent Medical, and we are the solution. We are a team of skilled MD and PhD level medical writers who specialize in fast turnaround needs assessments, manuscripts, slide decks, ad board summaries, and much, much more. Don't settle for anything less than pure excellence when it comes to your medical writing assistance. Just visit us at nascentmc.com. We're here so that you never have to be without excellent medical writing assistance. That's nascentmc.com. Also this week, the FDA has approved Tofidence, that's tocilizumab BAVI intravenous formulation. This is the first biosimilar monoclonal antibody referencing Actemra. The Tofidence intravenous formulation is approved for the treatment of moderately to severely active rheumatoid arthritis, polyarticular juvenile idiopathic arthritis, and systemic juvenile idiopathic arthritis. Biogen and Biothera entered into a commercialization and license agreement for Tofidence in April 2021. And as most of you probably know, a biosimilar is a biologic that is highly similar to and has no clinically meaningful differences in terms of safety, purity, and effectiveness from an existing FDA-approved biologic. In this case, it's Actemra, which is called a reference product for this agent. Also this week, the FDA has approved a two-component therapy, Pombiliti, that has the generic name of sipaglucosidase alpha ATGA, and that's being combined with Opfolda, which is called miglustat. And this is for the treatment of adults diagnosed with Pompe disease. Pompe disease is a rare inherited lysosomal disorder caused by a deficiency in the enzyme acid alpha glucosidase, GAA, resulting in a buildup of glycogen in the lysosomes of muscle cells. Disease severity ranges from skeletal muscle weakness to progressive respiratory effects such as impaired breathing. Pombiliti is a recombinant human GAA enzyme expressed with high levels of bis-mannose 6-phosphate, which increases uptake into muscle cells. The recently approved treatment paired with Opfolda, an enzyme stabilizer, is designed to reduce the loss of enzyme activity in the blood. The FDA approval is based on data from the phase 3 Pupil trial, with results showing improvements in patients completing a 6-minute walk test compared to the standard form of treatment. Also this week, the FDA has approved a subcutaneous administration of Entyvio, that's also called vedolizumab, for maintenance therapy in adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis after induction therapy with intravenous Entyvio. Entyvio is a humanized monoclonal antibody to alpha-4 beta-7 integrin and limits the ability of certain white blood cells to infiltrate gut tissues. Entyvio was first approved as an intravenous formulation in 2014 and is currently indicated for both moderate to severe ulcerative colitis and moderate to severe Crohn's disease. The manufacturer, Takeda, was granted the most recent approval for subcutaneous maintenance therapy based on data from the phase 3 Visible-1 study, and that showed that 46% of patients receiving subcutaneous Entyvio achieved clinical remission, compared to 14% of patients receiving placebo. And finally this week, an FDA advisory committee voted that Neurown, that's N-U-R-O-W-N, and that's from Brainstorm Cell Therapeutics, that's a stromal cell therapy, did not demonstrate substantial evidence of effectiveness for the treatment of mild to moderate amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, that's ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. The Cellular Tissue and Gene Therapies Advisory Committee found that the data were not sufficient in demonstrating efficacy as a treatment for patients with mild to moderate ALS. The FDA typically, although not always, follows the rulings of their advisory committees. The agency is expected to make a final decision on the treatment by the scheduled PDUFA date of December 8, 2023. At the meeting this week, the committee voted 17-1-1, that's 17 no's to 1 yes and 1 abstain, that the evidence presented did not adequately establish Nurone as effective treatment in mild to moderate ALS. Nurone makes use of a platform of autologous mesenchymal stromal cells secreting neurotrophic factors. And according to a press release from Brainstorm Cell Therapeutics, the totality of data presented for Nurone at the meeting provided a compelling case for approval, with clinical evidence in those with less advanced disease supported by strong and consistent biomarker data that are predictive of clinical response. Brainstorm has said they plan to conduct a randomized controlled phase 4 study with long-term open-label extension to assess the efficacy and safety of Nurone, and aims to enroll participants in the first half of 2024. All right, that's it for this week. And if this is of interest to you, please do tell your colleagues about this podcast, New FDA Approvals. It's a quick summary of the latest approvals, and it will help you keep up to date, whether you're a medical writer, a medical science liaison, you're some kind of pharmaceutical executive, or whatever the case may be. Please tell your colleagues. Thanks so much, and I appreciate your support. Have a great week.